first to do one, it would be really cool if you guys would too. So I'd like to start by thanking UAH Society of Women Engineers for hosting for us today, and they're actually also going to host one of our qualifier events in January. So looking out for that. And when you get a chance later, maybe you're going to go back out and play games and things. They have a little setup. Go talk to them. They've got some snap circuits which are really cool, and they can talk more about what their organization does. But really, really cool to have them involved this year. So we will have some guest speakers today for that energy expert panel. We'll have reps from TVA, Energy Alabama, and Municipal Utilities. So that'll be cool to kind of jumpstart you thinking about your innovation projects. But we'll get to that in a little bit. But yeah, I just wanted to welcome you. And if you don't know me, I'm Taylor with SNAP, so you've been receiving emails from me probably. I am the program delivery partner for First Lady League in Alabama, so my job is helping start teams, sustain teams, and I run all your events. We do have Jamie McClung here. He is one of our first senior mentors. So he is a great resource to help you. So if you're a new team and you have no idea what's going on, he's an excellent resource to do that. We're onboarding a couple other first senior mentors in Central and South Alabama is too in the upcoming couple of months. So we'll have lots of resources across the state to help with your teams. Drew. Woo! So my husband Drew, he actually works for First headquarters in software and web stuff. I don't know what software engineer is that your title? He's the one actually writing those emails that say at the bottom, like Taylor. He makes the really nice, pretty formatted emails, so he's kind of behind the scenes on some of that. But yeah, so Drew, are we ready to start with some videos? Or okay, so we are. Sorry, man, so we are going to start with watching through the season release, season launch videos. You've probably already seen these. They were released on August 2nd. But we're going to go through them together to kind of frame our morning here. And then we'll jump into our other activities for the day, including our experts, deeper dives into the robot game and judging. And then later we have some social kind of game time in the lobby.
And for about 3 months, that's all we had until August 2nd when these next videos were released. So one of the nice things about a lot of these videos is that there's no audio because this is a worldwide release, so we want to convey as much as we can with imagery, right? So what you just saw was the video for First LEGO League Discover. Discover is the offering for pre-K through first grade. It's non-competitive, non-team based. It's available through ClassPack. They do everything with Duplo sets, so this is their Duplo set. And all the sets this year have a wind turbine in them. This is the Discover version. Schools can do this, homes can do this. It's just a different offering. But they will use this set every year, and they also use I believe it's the Lego Steam Park set is their main kind of engagement. So if you're looking at First Grade League Discover for pre-K through first grade, this is what you'll get when you register with ClassPack. And I think that's about it for Discover.
Is it possible you kicked an HDMI cable up there?
I hope not.
Or turn the projectors off?
I see it. I think the button just got switched.
It's very representative of how parts of your season will go. It is part of it. You will learn.
Are we identifying the problem? Are we designing a
Current problem with energy. Projectors are not getting power.
We're creating this little
So while we wait on the next set of videos should be all about First Lego League Explore. Now, Discover is our offering for pre-K through first grade. Explore is our offering for, you'll hear it with ages and grades, ages 6 to 10 or grades 2nd through 4th. There is some overlap. Their set looks like this. They upgrade to actual Legos from the Duplos. They also have a wind turbine. Theirs is just a little bit different. And there are multiple models in this set. Explore is a program that is available through ClassPack, like Discover was, but it's also available through teams. If you're doing Explore, you can have a team of up to 6 students per team, and they use either, if you've got older technology, the Lego WeDo 2.0, this is what the old system was, but in First Lego League, we don't deprecate technology. We just move on to the next thing and say you can keep using your old stuff. So this is the WeDo, but you are more likely, if you're a new team or a new ClassPack, to be using the Lego Spike Essential, which comes in these yellow bins. They're green and they say Essential on them, and they are very tiny. They look like this. They have 2 ports on them. So if you're a new Explore team or a new Explore ClassPack, this is the technology that we recommend for the Explore teams. I think Ryan has us back up and ready, so we
We actually do have the core people over there.
Yeah, I mean, how long did it get? I think I'm so bad.
I'll probably skip the other Explore videos because they're just more the same.
So for time, we're going to skip the rest of the Explore videos because the Explore videos after this one just kind of dive deeper into each of the models because the Explore set this year has about 3 different models in it. So this playlist is on the First LEGO League YouTube channel, so if you want to see these on your own time too, they're there, publicly available, and we'll make sure we get that link out if we haven't already. Next up should be our challenge video.
This is the super-powered competition field. There are 15 missions which can be done in any order. You do not have to complete all the missions. Just try as many as you can in each 2.5-minute robot match. Only the robot game score from your best match will be counted.
True.
There are 2 launch areas and 2 home areas. You may have up to 2 technicians at each launch area. Your robot must start completely inside either launch area, and you should program it to return to either home area. You can handle and modify your robot between runs while it is in either home area. Gracious professionalism is how we express our core values in First LEGO League. The robot game is an important place to observe gracious professionalism, and the referees will evaluate this for each team at each robot match. Your robot and all your equipment must fit into 2 launch areas and under a height limit of 12 inches. If it is small enough to fit in just one launch area and under this height limit, then you will score the bonus points. Mission 1. Innovation Project Model. In this mission, you will use the Innovation Project model you have made that represents the solution to your innovation project. If your Innovation Project model is at least partly in the hydrogen plant target area. Mission 2. Oil platform. Pump the oil so that the fuel units load into the fuel truck. Then deliver the fuel truck to the fueling station. If a fuel unit is in a fuel truck. Bonus. If there is at least one fuel unit in the fuel truck, and the fuel truck is at least partly over the fueling station target. Mission 3. Energy storage. Load energy units into the energy storage bin, and then release the stored energy unit from the tray under the model. If there is an energy unit completely in the energy storage bin, maximum of 3. If the energy unit is completely removed from the energy storage tray. Mission 4. Solar farm. Start the distribution of the energy units by moving them off their positions on the mat. If an energy unit has been completely removed from its starting circle. Bonus. If all 3 energy units have been completely removed from their starting circles. Mission 5. Smart Grid. Raise your field's orange connector to complete the Smart Grid connection with the opposite field. If your field's orange connector is completely raised. Bonus. If both teams' orange connectors are completely raised.
High five thing. If both connectors are raised, then you get 30 points.
This is the guided mission.
And this is a guided
Teams will be provided with the program to complete the first part of the mission. Mission 6, Hybrid Car. Recharge the hybrid car by inserting the hybrid unit into the car. If the hybrid car is no longer touching the ramp. If the hybrid unit is in the hybrid car. Mission 7, Wind Turbine. Release the energy units from the wind turbine. If an energy unit is no longer touching the wind turbine. Mission 8, Watch television. Raise the television screen and move the energy unit to the television slot. If the television is completely raised. If there is an energy unit completely in the green television slot. Mission 9, Dinosaur Toy. Insert an energy unit or a rechargeable battery into the dinosaur toy to make it work. If the dinosaur toy is completely in the left home area. If the dinosaur toy lid is completely closed and there is an energy unit inside. Or there is a rechargeable battery inside. Mission 10, Power Plant. Release the 3 energy units from the power plant. If an energy unit is no longer touching the power plant. Bonus, if all 3 energy units are no longer touching the power plant. Mission 11, Hydroelectric Dam. Send the water unit from the top of the hydroelectric dam into the turbine wheel to release the energy unit. If the energy unit is no longer touching the hydroelectric dam. Mission 12, Water Reservoir. Place the looped water units from the river above and below the dam into the water reservoir or onto the red hooks. If a looped water unit is completely in the water reservoir touching the mat. If a looped water unit is placed on a single red hook. Mission 13, Power to X. Deliver energy units to the hydrogen plant target area. If there is an energy unit completely in the hydrogen plant target area. Maximum of 3. Mission 14, Toy Factory. Deliver energy units to the Toy Factory bin and release the mini dinosaur toy. If there is an energy unit at least partly in the slot in the back of the Toy Factory. Or in the red hopper. Maximum of 3. If the mini dinosaur toy has been released. Mission 15, Rechargeable Battery. Deliver energy units to the rechargeable battery target area. If there is an energy unit completely in the rechargeable battery target area. Maximum of 3. Precision tokens. The less you interrupt your robot outside home, the more points you will keep. If you interrupt your robot outside the home areas, you will lose a precision token. Precision tokens left on the field will result in extra points. Remember that referees will be evaluating your gracious professionalism at each match. Remember to read the Robot Game Rulebook and check for any updates during the season. Good luck!
So that was the overview video of the missions, but like they said, make sure you read the rule book because there are more detailed rules in there. Make sure you're checking for challenge updates and challenge clarifications throughout the season because as teams uncover things that weren't explicitly mentioned in the rules, First Lego League might come back and say, hey, we actually want to clarify this so teams are on a level playing field. Chris Barrow is our head referee for the state. Woo! And he and I will be talking about judging in Robot Game a little bit later today in more detail. But quick question, how many points do you get if you pass inspection with the bonus?
20.
And how many points do you have if you don't interrupt your robot? 50. So that means if you don't do anything, you start with 70 points. All right, so we got one more video, I think, and that's going to be the video that First Lego League gave us on challenge release day on August 7th.
Hello, First Lego League teams from around the world. I'm Kim Werman, Senior Director of First Lego League. Welcome to the Super-Powered season. I am so excited to see so many new and returning teams joining us this year, where you'll explore where energy comes from and how it's distributed, stored, and used. This season, you'll use your super-powered creativity to work to reimagine and innovate for a better energy future. From First Lego League Discover, to Explore, to Challenge, I am excited to see students ages 4 to 16 experiment and grow their critical thinking, teamwork, and coding skills, all while having fun. Coaches, you've been provided with materials such as the Team Meeting Guide and Engineering Notebook to help guide you and your team members through the season. There are also a variety of resources available on our website to enhance your team's experience and learn more about the energy journey. As we say in First Lego League, teamwork makes the dream work, and we can't wait to see what your team accomplishes this season. This is our moment to think about what the future uses of energy might be and the amazing possibilities it can unlock. Let's build it together. Good luck, teams, and let us know how your season is going using hashtag #Superpowered on your social media. Hello, First Lego League team, and welcome to Superpowered, part of the first Energize presented by Qualcomm season. I'm Chloe Callahan from Corporate Responsibility at Qualcomm, and we are so happy to be part of this exciting season as you put your superpowered creativity to work and explore where energy comes from, how it's generated, how it gets to you, and how much you're using. Each time we plug in, fuel up, turn a key, flip a switch, or press a button to make something go, we're using energy that's delivered to us in many different ways. At Qualcomm, our technologies offer innovative ways to maximize the performance of devices while reducing the amount of energy they use. With 5G, we have the opportunity to help lower greenhouse gas emissions, better manage electricity, reduce water consumption, and contribute to green job growth. To further explore how 5G technologies are helping improve environmental sustainability, visit the First Lego League game and season page. In First Energize, the power is yours. It's your new ideas that can unlock tomorrow's energized world. Good luck, First Lego League!
And so they mentioned some documents you have access to. Once we get into the judging and refereeing portion of the day, I'll talk about how you access those documents for anybody who doesn't know how. But I'm going to turn it over to Taylor, who's going to be introducing some speakers who are here to talk to you about superpowered, specifically how energy is created, stored, distributed, and consumed.
So like I mentioned earlier, we have some speakers here from Huntsville Utilities, TVA, and Energy Alabama to talk to you about their company or organization's role in energy journeys or in the future of energy and sustainability. And this is hopefully to get you to start thinking about your innovation projects because you are supposed to be talking to experts and figuring out, getting some feedback later on in the season, but kind of this could be a jumping point, starting point for you. So I'm going to start with Huntsville Utilities, and really how this will work is I'm going to have each speaker just come up and talk for just a couple minutes about kind of an introduction and what they do in that role in that journey. But then we'll have some time after everyone has gotten to do that just for all of you to start asking some questions. Okay. So I will start. I'll let you introduce yourselves too, sorry.
Hi, First Lego League. So I'm Stacy Cantrell. I work at Huntsville Utilities and here with TVA and Energy Alabama so that we can kind of help you understand how the three of us work together to meet your energy needs today and more importantly in the future because things are changing. And you guys have some pretty hefty challenges here, not unlike the ones that we're all trying to figure out ourselves. So maybe you'll figure it out for us and then our job will be easy. But I brought two of the smartest people at Huntsville Utilities with me today. Julie Brown, who's also a robotics team veteran and from the looks of her daughter, a future robotics team participant. And Raleigh Grigg in our engineering group. And Raleigh's going to talk to you some more about what we do and kind of quiz you a little bit on what you might already know. Thanks.
Good morning. I'm happy to be here. Again, my name is Raleigh. I went to the University of Alabama in Huntsville, but this building wasn't open until after I graduated. So some of the things we do at Huntsville Utilities is we don't generate and transmit. That'll be TVA. I'm sure they'll talk about that in just a second. But what we do is we distribute and we send it to the end user, which is all of you and us. And we don't get that involved in storage just yet, but we do have over 200 solar installations on our system. Some of you probably drove by them or might even know where some of them are. And see some students I've talked to in the past, so that's great to see you guys. And let us know what questions you have. I have some questions for you guys when that time comes. Is that the time now?
You can ask some now. Go ahead.
So you guys saw dinosaurs a couple times in the videos. Did you connect that to what we're actually doing now? Tell me. There we go, fossil fuels. Did anybody else sit there and wonder why are there dinosaurs in this video? In the yellow shirt? Sure, that's part of it. And so we're here to discuss fossil fuels and also the up-and-coming alternative and renewable energy as well. Did anybody else have something they wanted to add to it? Yes?
Since the business about energy, fossil fuels can create energy.
Absolutely, they sure can. And one more question. What is the thing, somebody, or two or three of you, tell me what you like to have energized the most. Is it your car or some type of a game? Do you have an electric scooter? What's your favorite thing to have energized? Go ahead, in green shirt. Yeah, your phone. All right. Anybody else? Yep. Yeah, all right.
My air conditioner.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. All right. Well, we look forward to answering more questions or questions from you later.
So I am a first alumni. It's been quite a few years since I have done this, but I just have a question. They mentioned gracious professionalism. That's something I've used in my nearly 14 years at Huntsville Utilities. So can somebody tell me what that means? Taylor, his kids.
I'm telling you, you're just shy. Like, what is this?
I mean,
What is gracious professionalism?
all right. So my challenge for you is to go out in the world and figure that out. Do you know?
I'm stretching.
Oh, you're stretching. Okay. So I was not fortunate to start at your age. I started in high school. I built the big FRC robots. I enjoyed that, and I learned the gracious professionalism. Basically, to me, it always means working together, being honest and open with your teammates, and that kind of thing. And I took that in my work experience as well. So I really would like for the parents in the room to really hone in on that, because that is something that they will use in the future. Yeah.
So thank you. Huntsville Utility Department. Now I'll invite our TVA representative.
TVA. That's the Tennessee Valley Authority, and you're probably wondering why it's a guy from Tennessee here in Alabama, right? But it's the Tennessee Valley, right? It was created in the 1930s along the Tennessee River. And the Tennessee River starts in Tennessee, so we call it Tennessee Valley. But the Tennessee River flows through Alabama, right? Just right here near Huntsville, 200 miles of river in North Alabama. Cool thing about the river is TVA started in Northwest Alabama with a huge hydroelectric dam. It's called Wilson Dam. It's the biggest hydroelectric dam in TVA's system. It generates 100% carbon-free, renewable electricity around the clock, right? It's been doing it for almost 100 years, right? And then we got 2 more dams on the Tennessee River in North Alabama that are generating 100% renewable carbon-free electricity all the time, right? That's what Rolly was talking about. We generate the power with our hydroelectric dams, with a really big nuclear plant here in North Alabama. It's the 2nd largest nuclear plant in the country, right? Generating, again, carbon-free electricity in North Alabama, right? Hydroelectric, carbon, then we've got some gas plants, right, where we burn natural gas, fossil fuels, come back to that in a minute, to generate electricity. And then we got some solar plants in Alabama, right? The largest one in the state of Alabama is right up here in North Alabama on TVA's system in Muscle Shoals. We got another one. So you got a whole lot of renewable carbon-free resources in North Alabama that are a really important part of the larger grid, right? That grid that y'all are working on, that's how we talk about it, right? The creation, the generation and distribution and delivery of electricity, right? We call that the grid, right? It's all interconnected. So that grid you're working on in this challenge, that's what our TVA system looks like, right? Except just bigger. It covers 7 states around the Tennessee Valley. And of course, it's connected to the whole Eastern Interconnect, right? Blows me away when I think that that outlet right there is physically connected, literally physically connected to that hydroelectric dam I told you about, to that nuclear plant I told you about, to an outlet that looks just like that in New York City somewhere, right? The whole Eastern Interconnect is connected, right? That's what we call it, the interconnect. Just amazing feats of engineering, right? Which is exactly what I hope y'all are passionate about, right? I've been a first robotics competition judge in Knoxville. Love seeing so many people who are passionate about science and technology and engineering and math, the students, the teachers, the judges, the coaches, people from the community like us who come from utilities and other high-tech industry. This is like our Pride Day, right? We get all the STEM nerds together and we have a good time, right? And you solve these kinds of problems so that someday you can come to work at a place like TVA or Huntsville Utilities or Energy Alabama or any other number of places that we partner with and solve these problems, right? I asked the director at Oak Ridge National Lab once, right, which is up near Knoxville. It's a huge national research lab you may have heard of. I said, how do you convince people, the brightest scientists in the world, to come to Oak Ridge, Tennessee, right? Oak Ridge, Tennessee is just kind of near Knoxville. You could go to Berkeley, California. You could go to all sorts of fancy places. He said, we work on solving interesting problems. And that gets smart people to come and work here because we're working on interesting problems that matter. And there's nothing that matters more in the 21st century than electricity, right? It makes the whole 21st century possible, right? Everything we care about, from healthcare to technology, right, to air conditioning, right, to quality of life and comfort, that's more and more that's driven by electricity now. So I'll ask y'all a question now. Why would you drive an electric car? Why might an electric car be better than a gasoline-fired car?
Because gasoline pollutes the air more.
Yep, another answer?
We're running out of gasoline, so if we use electric cars, then those, like the hydroelectric dam you told us about, that produces electricity, and then we use that electricity for cars.
That's right. Yeah, those are good answers. One more right here.
Gas prices going up?
Yeah. So if your car runs on gas, that's 100% fossil fuels, right? That's where the gasoline comes from. If you plug your car in here in Huntsville and charge your car, most of the electricity you're going to get is coming from other things. It's not coming from fossil fuels. It's coming from nuclear. It's coming from hydroelectric electricity. So it's going to be at least about 60% carbon-free. And if you plug it in at night, it's probably going to be closer to 100% carbon-free, right? So now you electrify transportation and you take a bunch of carbon out of all the cars driving around. That's one part of the path to the future, right? More electrification of cars, industry, all sorts of things, and then figure out how to make the electric grid lower and lower carbon so that it's better for us and the environment. Last thing I'll say about TVA. TVA didn't even start as an electric company. Today we're the second largest public power company in the United States, serving 7 states, 10 million people, right? We didn't even start as a public power company. We started as a river company, right? The river. And it was go dam the river to control the flooding and improve navigation and improve the quality of life for people that live here. And if you generate some electricity in the process, you can sell that. So our mission is always focused and anchored on environmental stewardship first, right? Take care of the river, take care of this part of the country, generate the electricity because that improves people's quality of life, makes it a great place to live and work, but never take your eye off of taking care of the environment, right? So as we transition to this energy system of the future that y'all are going to work on, that's what we're focused on. How do we keep everything running in the 21st century and do that in a way that's good for the environment too? So I'm super excited to be here and see y'all. I look forward to hanging out after we finish this and talking to y'all about your ideas for your projects. Thank you, Taylor.
Now I'll invite up our speaker from Energy Alabama. If Ellie will let me go.
She's got a head start on y'all, I'm not gonna lie. Nice to meet everyone. I'm Daniel Tate with Energy Alabama. So great to see so many of you that are interested in helping us solve a lot of the biggest challenges we have coming forward. A little bit about me and Energy Alabama. We are a nonprofit organization that works with education and advocacy around clean energy. So we are trying to encourage and accelerate a lot of the transition that you see here for a lot of the reasons that y'all just heard from our great speakers on utilities and TVA, right? I heard the thing that warmed my heart the most, right? He nailed it on the head, right? In order to solve some of our biggest challenges, we need to electrify everything. We need to make sure that a lot of our industry, our transportation, are running on electricity, and then clean up our electricity as fast as we possibly can. A couple things that I wanted to flag for y'all in terms of potential challenges or things about this system that are changing a lot as you think about your project and the world as it's changing is, historically speaking, and y'all heard from TVA Huntsville Utilities, right? You have big central station power plants that are owned and operated by TVA, and they generate massive amounts of electricity and send it all over to lots of local power companies like Huntsville Utilities and 150 some odd others around 7 states. So a huge operation they have, right? And then what is happening today? We're now seeing lots of what we call distributed energy technologies that weren't even a thing 100 years ago, right? Where people like me and you can generate electricity on our house, or maybe we have an electric vehicle that can use that battery storage and plug back into the grid and provide some value and service. And I noticed that one of the sponsors was Qualcomm. And it makes a lot of sense, right? Because Qualcomm is what? Well, they're a communications company. And in order for these systems to work together, both the central station, which is going to be here, we need central station, we need big transmission, we need utilities, we also are going to need distributed energy, we're going to need all of the solutions, and we got to make sure that all those solutions can talk to one another, and can provide mutual benefit. And so it makes a lot of sense to me why a company like Qualcomm would sponsor, because a lot of the heart of this challenge is communications, making sure that all these things can talk. A couple of other things that I wanted to flag for where is everyone from? Is everyone from the Huntsville area, or we got folks from all over North Alabama? All over the whole state.
Ricky's team from Orange Beach. From like the Birmingham area here.
Nice. All right.
Huntsville area. Anyone else in town leaving out? Any areas?
Well, welcome to Huntsville. We're so glad to have you here. If you are not from the TVA area, your system of electricity works a little bit different. And so I want to just briefly talk a little bit about that. I was hopeful that we would have some folks not from our area, you may get your power from someone like Alabama Power, or you may buy your power from another municipal utility in your area. Could be a city like Dothan, could be an electric cooperative like Baldwin EMC if you're from the Orange Beach area. So there's a variety of ways and all over, even just this state, that this system that you see today, that a lot of the challenges that you have, they operate in a vastly different way all across the state. And furthermore, they're all connected, just like you said from TVA, right? So a lot of times you'll notice that as you're looking at your challenge, think about in the real world, your challenge needs to be able to help everybody else. Because there are some days where TVA is sending power to Alabama Power, and Alabama Power is sending power to TVA because of that big Eastern interconnection, right? So I just want to highlight how big this system is and how big the challenges that y'all are solving go from just the smallest car, the smallest house, to the entire United States, and it's all connected. And it's just a phenomenal feat of engineering that gets me excited about solving the biggest challenge. So I'm happy here to answer questions. I'm based here in Huntsville. We have folks across the state, and I'll just say, and from Energy Alabama's perspective, I'm happy to help at any point through your challenges. If you ever want to contact me or any of our staff and team, please do. This is what we get out of bed to do, is education and advocacy on clean energy. And so to the extent that we can be helpful to anyone at any time, we want to do it. So don't feel shy about emailing or contacting me at any time.
And you can stay up. So I'm going to invite all of our speakers to kind of hang out up front so that we can do some Q&A. And it may be that you ask some questions that they all have different perspectives on, and maybe certain people need to be the ones answering that. So who's going to be the brave one and ask the first question? Okay, we've got some hands. Okay, so I will let you all.
All right, where we got? Go for it back here in the kind of orange yellow shirt.
Have you ever had any children figure out something that you had to pay people to get the answers?
Pay people to get the answer every day. Every day. I'll tell you a big challenge that we go through all together. Because she's right. A lot of us here standing here, we don't always agree on everything. And we get in rooms, and TVA has a process that they call the Integrated Resource Plan, which is a big room, basically, where a bunch of people that disagree on things beat our heads against the wall and each other and go, we got to figure this out. And that's what we do every so many years with TVA and lots of different stakeholders all across the Tennessee Valley. We try to figure out, how do we do this system better in the next so many years. And I think that all of our organizations are paying people every day to try to figure out how to solve those challenges.
But we're always listening, too. We're always listening for new ideas and good ideas. Just because we got a bunch of super smart engineers that work for us, right, and work for Daniel and work on our teams, I always want to listen to the public and the people that we serve, right, because that's what it's about. So we listen to all good ideas.
Yeah, and your team knows how to get in touch with me, so if you want to share some of those bright ideas, go ahead and share them with me.
Yeah.
Pass them along.
There's a question there.
I know this question's probably going to be a yes, but have y'all ever failed so miserably to the point where y'all just had to work together and learn from it?
So, do you mind repeating that? We are streaming, and it may be harder to hear. Do you mind repeating that?
I'll have to repeat it. The question was, have we ever failed so miserably that we had to work together to fix it, right? I guess the best example I could come up with is in 2011, there were tornadoes that tore through Alabama and killed a lot of people and completely destroyed the transmission system here in North Alabama. People were without power for 10, 11 days in some cases. And it required people from all over the Southeast to come together, which happens if there's a tornado, a hurricane down at the beach. It happens if there's a natural disaster anywhere in the country, really. People who do this for a living, the people who deliver electricity for a living, they all rally together and they help each other get the power back on as quickly as possible because we understand how important it is to people's daily lives. But that taught us a lot about how much Mother Nature can just absolutely ruin our day or week, right? And how you need to be ready and prepared, and we call it resilient, right? So that if you get knocked down, you can get back up quickly. Because again, it's really, really important in the work that we do. It's a good question.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I mean, actually, my entire start in this industry and this work came from that. Came from 2011, and I think a lot of us, especially here from like Tuscaloosa up to North Alabama, really woke up and said, Mother Nature is always going to mess with us. We can't stop Mother Nature, but we can make sure that we can be ready when she does strike to get back on our feet as fast as possible. And so that started, I think, a lot of people across a lot of different sectors in the economy thinking about how they could do a better job because it's such a big vulnerability and everything runs on electricity. Our modern economy depends on it. And so that was a big turning point, I think, for a lot of us in Alabama. All right, I got a white shirt, and I missed a hand, and an orange, yellow shirty.
That's what the kids.
All right, go for it, sir.
So what specific problem are you right now working on?
What specific problem am I working on?
Classified information, right?
Yes.
That's classified.
I would say that, for us at Energy Alabama, there are two big things that kind of keep me up at night. One is that we often have technological solutions that need business model changes to make them come to market, to make them go as fast as possible. You're starting to see that, right, with electric vehicles, that things are changing in the business world that are allowing technological solutions that smart people have created to get out into the world. So a lot of the things that we do are often thinking about business model changes or policy changes that allow the smart things that people have come up with to get out. We have a lot of those changes that need to be made in Alabama, to be blunt about it. And so usually those are things that keep me up at night. From a technical standpoint, honestly, I think it's transmission. As you look at these types of systems, we're going to need a lot more wires to be able to have distributed energy and renewable energy that's intermittent over the course of the day, and energy storage that's going to be in a lot more places. We need more connectivity, and we don't currently have that. That's going to be a big challenge as to how we get more transmission.
I'd like the opportunity to ask you a question as well. So one of our biggest challenges, I would say, would be keeping up with the impending growth that our area is experiencing. The city of Huntsville, right, the #1 city to live in the U.S., right? And we also have a lot of electric vehicles that are coming. So for the next couple of years, it's going to be like, hey, great, this is filling in that gap that all the energy-efficient LEDs and other energy-efficient products made for us. So, for a couple of years, we'll be filling in that gap, but then for a couple of years after that, we'll be experiencing growth beyond what we've ever seen before. So there will be that challenge. And then when we get through that challenge, we'll be happy again that we overcame that last challenge. So again, our biggest challenge that I foresee is keeping up with all the future growth that our area will be experiencing.
Yeah, Julie, don't jump on that one first though, but because that's what we think about at TVA, right? This whole electrify the whole economy and decarbonize the whole economy means we got to build a lot of things, right? We got to build a lot more solar, a lot more nuclear, a lot more transmission, a lot more generation. We got to build a lot of stuff over the coming decades, which requires money, it requires people, it requires materials, right? So on the bigger scale, we worry about the same thing Raleigh's worried about, is how do we build all the things we need to build to electrify and take carbon out of the economy. It's a big challenge, and we need lots of people who are excited and willing to work hard on it for like a long time. So, Julie, what?
So I was just gonna say, these guys up here are way smarter than me on the energy side. So I'm over the mapping department at Huntsville Utilities. So basically, my problem right now, he answered what are we working on? So one of our issues is we're supporting these folks. We're helping them. We're making sure that they have the information that they need. And at night, I lose a lot of sleep over that because I'm making sure that he's got what he needs to be able to provide the power to you guys. So that, and I was going to say, if you ever come across a problem that you're struggling with, and you're like, hey, I failed. I think somebody else mentioned that. Just take a step back, take a moment, breathe it. As you do this challenge this year, you're going to come across those issues. So that was it.
If I could add just a little bit to try to maybe pull a couple of these questions together about, have we ever had failures where we all had to work together, and what are we doing to collectively solve problems? I think luckily people way before us maybe had those failures and started working together and started the relationships that we now all benefit from. And just a little bit of clue on what we do to try to manage all this. And really TVA heads this up about every 4 years. They put together a big old committee of people that say, okay, what has changed in the last 4 years? Because things change about every 4 years. But what's changed? What's different? What do we have access to? What's technology brought us that we can now take advantage of? So is solar easier? What have we seen happen with EVs? What have we seen happen with storage? What other kinds of technologies make things available to us that we didn't used to have? And on this team, the last one, I had the pleasure of sitting in on the team with Daniel Tate, and there are people from large electric users and industrial users throughout the valley. Other representatives from these 150 something utilities like Huntsville Utilities. Several of us sit on that committee. The Sierra Club. I think like ALDOT or TDOT was on the team. I can't think of all the other areas, but TVA includes a very, very broad scope of people on that, and we talk about those things. And then we talk about, what's TVA's capacity? How many generating plants do we have? Which ones are working great? Which ones are too old and need to be shut down? And how much fossil fuel do we still have, and how can we replace that with other stuff? So we've been working on that for many, many years, and it's just a thing that changes all the time. So we meet pretty frequently to keep up with that. So just wanted to give you that idea of what's already happening to make sure that we're keeping up with stuff and we're changing, because just like dinosaurs, it's hard when you get a big old system like this with how many customers does he have?
10 million.
Like 10 million customers. This is big. It's hard to change something that big, but we're looking at it and trying to stay ahead of it.
I'm going to add one thing, and then we've got to answer his question in the red shirt. He wins the endurance. He's just kept his arm up the whole time.
But this is my son, who is apparently here to give me a hard time.
Oh, okay. We got to get his question out.
But one comment just on what Stacy was just saying. I don't know if y'all been listening to all the answers, right? But she said team about 8 times, right? Daniel talked about, when we talked about the storm response, right? When we need to figure this out, when we need to go solve a problem, when we fail, and we need to get back up, when we need to figure out what the future looks like, we don't just go find the smartest person at TVA or Energy Alabama and ask them to tell us, right? We get a big group of people together. We get a team together with a whole lot of different perspectives, right? That's what y'all are going to do, right? That's the other thing I love about these competitions, right? Is that you're working together as a team. You've all got different things you bring to the table. That's what your team needs. That's what the energy industry needs. That's what the world needs, right? Just bring your perspective to the table, work together as a team, and solve hard problems.
I got one more quick comment. So the three of us, a lot of times we disagree, but we have gracious professionalism. Is that the word?
That's it.
So I think it's our disagreements that actually make us progress. If we all got together and said, "Hey, good job, let's have some coffee and then we leave." No, we disagree and we challenge each other, and that's what makes us move forward. That's where the real benefit comes from. So graciously, respectfully disagree with your teammates when you have a different idea. Or say, "Hey, what about this?" That's how you get better.
I'm scared.
So is this question just for your dad?
Well, it's for basically the entire energy industry. Why exactly do we use fossil fuels? Because I get, say, in early 1900s, we didn't really know that fossil fuels was bad and we would be running low on them. But nowadays, we know, hey, it pollutes the air, we don't want to do this. Why exactly do we still use it?
We got two answers. I'll take the first swing at it. One, they contain a lot of energy, right? I mean, they're energy dense, and so combusting them, burning them, right, releases a lot of energy. That's when people figured out they could burn coal and release a lot more energy than burning wood. They're like, this is amazing, right? And because they're energy dense, whether it's coal or liquid like oil and gas, you can transport them. You can transport energy pretty easily in that form, right? You can put it in a pipeline, you can put it on a rail car, and you can send energy from one place to another, like the little energy cells over here. Other types of energy aren't as easy to get from one place to the other, right? That's one reason TVA is investing a lot in storage. How do we store energy? And in the transmission system, so we can get electricity from one place to another. So one answer is they're really energy dense and they're easy to transport. The other answer, because everybody sees what you see, right? I don't think anybody at this point thinks you can just keep burning all the fossil fuels forever without bad consequences, right? It's what Stacy was saying earlier. It's a huge system with trillions of dollars, but think of it in terms of steel, think of it in terms of wire, think of it in terms of pipelines. It's a huge system, and it just takes time to make the investments, to build the new generation, to transition, as we say, the whole energy system. So the things we have been using, just really convenient. The thing we need to transition to will make a better world. It's just a big job, which is why I'm glad we get to talk to y'all and other folks around the country saying, this is important, this is exciting, this is actually really, really interesting, and there are cool problems to go solve. And we need a lot of people working on it.
I'll add, because I have to add to my own son's question. The brainwashing is strong. That, like Stacy said, a lot of times, like when we disagree, it's almost less about what to do and more about how we all kind of agree that we're trying to get to a certain point at the end. It's about kind of how fast do we do it and how do we get to there from here. Less so about like we fundamentally disagree about the future and what awesome world we're trying to create. So that also makes it a lot easier too, right? Because you've got these bounds around our disagreements and saying, oh, hey, we all agree that we want to get to a great place. We've got to figure out ways to do that. And that's where, like, I think Stacy is exactly right, is that they challenge us and we challenge them, because ultimately the right answer is probably neither one of the things we came to the table with and go, oh, wait a minute, I like that little part about what you said. We could do that. And it makes for a lot stronger system in the end.
I would like to add just a little bit to that. Fossil fuels are dependable. We know how they work, and we've used them for a long time. It doesn't mean we can use them for as long to the future as we have in the past, and right now we're in that transition. So whether it be a robot or a boat, when you are traveling along in a very small boat, you can make a quick turn. When your boat is large, like we're talking about, right, 10 million people, 7 states, when you want to turn, it takes a little while to plan ahead where you're going to turn, or for a little bitty robot, right? You can make it go all around that track, but if you had a much larger robot, you could only turn it a couple times before you cross the entire area. I hope that makes sense, that it's a very large thing, and we're planning for the future, and we're making that transition. It just takes a while for something as large as TVA to make that transition.
Somebody's been persistent in the back that I missed. Who was it? Yes, yellow shirt.
Are y'all ever thinking about making power lines that don't get affected by natural disasters?
This is a good question.
Right, so that's easier said than done, but you know.
The question was, do we think about power lines that are not affected by natural disaster? Sorry.
So, yeah, like, what we can do is we can put more of them underground. It's more expensive, but then tornadoes are not as likely to rip them up and throw them on the neighbor's property, right? But they are more susceptible to flooding. So there's really, yes, We are working toward that in most areas, but there is no transmission or distribution system that I know that is completely resilient when it comes to Mother Nature and all her glory.
Make a great innovation project.
Yeah, one thing that you're starting to see in certain communities that are ravaged by natural disaster a lot, think of New Orleans, for instance. You're starting to see a lot more what are called resiliency centers. And these are essentially where we know bad things are going to happen, right? And in certain places, they happen a lot, or more likely to happen a lot. And so a lot of times you'll see nonprofits and utilities and churches plan about how do we say, well, power may go out, but we know that the church down the street, we know that the school down the street has a redundant or resilient system that can keep online, even if the distribution or the transmission system goes down. It may have, renewable energy, battery storage, things like that on site to help a local community that typically goes to that school, typically goes to that church, be able to stay online for a few days while we can get these things fixed and everybody's life back to normal. So that's becoming a more popular concept for areas that are, seeing a lot of natural disaster.
We're running out of time, and there's so many of you that have questions. I'm sorry, I should have allotted more time for this. I thought y'all would be shocked. But would it be okay if you all have some way that teams can contact you with questions and things as they start thinking more about their projects and what directions they want to go in? That'd be okay. Okay, so we will share that out, some contact info, so you can directly ask these questions. So we're about to do our deeper dive on the robot game and judging, so we'll start that in just a minute. But huge thank you to all of our speakers. Drew, yeah. Did Drew win the prize? No, I didn't. So thank you all so much. This is the first time we brought in on the expert panel, so really appreciate it. Look forward to a bunch of 10-year-olds emailing you. Alright, so deep dive. So as we mentioned, so Drew is our state judge advisor, so he's going to give more information about the judging process this year. And as you said, Chris Barrow is our new head rep for our state, so he's also going to be here to talk robot game. And there'll be some time where you can ask maybe some deeper questions that you've been unsure about since getting all this information thrown at you recently for season 1. Okay.
So this segment is primarily geared toward our challenge folks. Explore and discover. There's not much more for you to worry about at this point, but we'll get to that. So I have 2 questions real quick. Raise your hand if you've never done this before. We got a handful of rookies. That's a pretty good score of rookies. Now, I've got another question. I want everybody to answer at the same time. It's a yes or a no question. It'll let me know a little bit more. Is First Lego League Challenge a robotics competition?
Yes.
The answer is no. Raise your hand if you're confused. So we're going to talk about that, but the robot is only one piece of the puzzle. First Lego League Challenge is so much more than the robot. So like Taylor mentioned, I am the state judge advisor, so I'm going to talk to you about the judging process.
And I'm a referee. I'll talk about refereeing.
Right. So the referees are very centered and focused and experts on the robot game. The judges, we deal with the other 75% of what you're going to do. And yes, I did say 75%. This is only 25% of your challenge. So when you're planning resources, kind of think about that. But I'm going to point you to some resources, and I'll turn it over to Chris to talk more about the robot game. 2 websites you always want to know about are firstinspires.org and firstlegoleague.org. If you're on firstinspires.org, you go down to programs, First Lego League, and the tab I always want to know about is game and season. And so on game and season, we're challenged. So we go to our challenge season materials and look at all these documents here. And they're all updated except for your certificates, which you can get later. So that's one set of documents you can get to. If you're on the firstlegoleague.org page, you just click on the season tab, scroll down, and you click on all 3 divisions, and there's more stuff. Some of it's the same, some of it's different. Make sure you check both. One thing that's been recently posted are the challenge session slides. And these are PowerPoints that go with every session. So Taylor, I'm going to have you come up and walk through this real quick. So there's a few documents that we want to make sure everybody knows how to get access to. So when you register as a team, you will get some printed materials. These include the team meeting guides, which are books for coaches, and you will get some engineering notebooks, which are books for students. They both follow the same curriculum, but from different perspectives. If you need more engineering notebooks, you can order a set, or you have digital versions available. So this is your first dashboard. How many of you have seen this before, right? This is what you log into, register a team, and your team registration is that. I think it's a $250 fee now. That's your team registration cost. So to get to these documents, after you've paid, you're going to look for this Access ThinkScape button. ThinkScape is where all of your materials are going to be. Left-handed. Left-handed. And it is Left-Handers Day, so kind of rude. So at the top, you've got your institutions.
Sorry. Drew has an MIT and a Harvard degree, and I think he knows what he's talking about.
So there's a few things listed here. We've got our FRC stuff, but we've also got first teams. So click on that, and you'll get all these things here. And what you're looking for are the cards labeled Superpowered. So Taylor's got a couple here. There's the Explore team there at the bottom, and there's the Challenge team up on the top row. So if you click on that.
Oh, I hate your mouse.
Thank you.
So you got 2 sets of resources. You've got getting started resources and these resources. And these are all geared toward coaches. So coaches, these are resources for you to help plan your season and give to your students or direct your students with. So I'm going to pull this up. So this first tab here, and this is all behind our paywall. So registered teams have access to this. So you've got the digital guidebooks. They've got the engineering notebook here, the robot game rule book, which anybody can access. I'll show you how to get to that, and the team meeting guide. I'm just going to open up the team meeting guide real quick. And there's a table of contents as the page loads. Walks through a bunch of stuff. But this is walking you, the coach, through the season. So this is broken up into 12 sessions, and it breaks them down into about 2 to 2.5 hour chunks. And then you can break that up as you see fit. But this is all planned out for you if you need a starting point. And there's some management tips, and as you go through, there's more details on each session, so what the outcomes are, things like that. But there's also the engineering notebook, and I'm trying not to show too much of this because, but the engineering notebook has all the same information, but for the students, and it will walk them through the process as well. And you can see here they've got their session 1 notes. And so on and so forth. They can track their team goals, their personal goals, so there's a lot of stuff in these books. Make sure you look through your materials when you register your team and check ThinkScape on your dashboard. So those are 2 of the important documents, the engineering book and the team meeting guide.
And then those session slides line up with those sessions in the team meeting guide and engineering notebook. So there are session 1 slides that match, that you can present while you're going through session 1 of the books.
Yeah, that's these. So the other documents that we care about, there's a bunch of things on here. There's the score calculator if you just want to click what you did and see how the referees will do it. But the other document on here, there's 2 documents that I would like to point people to, are there's the building instructions. That'll tell you how to build your models. The robot game rule book, there's a PDF version and an interactive version. This goes through all of the rules to the game. So in the video they showed you how to do the missions. This will tell you exactly what the specific rules of each mission are. But because things happen, things get uncovered, there's a challenge updates document. So there were challenge updates on August 2nd. There was 1 update and there were 5 clarifications. So make sure, in terms of priority, the updates are the most important things because they're the most recent. Then the robot game rule book, then the video, then everything else. So updates, robot game rules, everything else. The only thing that would supersede any of that is what you're being told by First HQ that hasn't made it to an update yet. So those are a few of the important documents, and you'll want to make sure to review through those. So I'm also going to talk about judging briefly. So in judging, in First Lego League Challenge, we have 4 components to the game. First component you're already familiar with is the robot game. How do you know who wins the robot game? Points. Whoever gets the most points wins. So that's a fourth of your score, is how well did you do in the robot game. And it's not how many points you got, it's how did you do relative to everybody else. So if there's 10 teams at your event, we rank you from 1 to 10, and that's what we care about. I don't care if you got 500 points, which isn't possible this year, or if you got 30 points. I care about what is your order. So that's a fourth of your score. The other 3/4 come from judging. So we look at core values. How well does your team exhibit and demonstrate the core values of FIRST, not only in the competition and your judging, but in your everyday life? And the judges are going to ask you some questions, kind of tease that out of you. Then we talk about robot design, which is kind of confusing because you've got the robot game, right? The robot game cares about how well does your robot accomplish these tasks. But robot design is going to judge you based on how did you engineer your robot? How did you tackle the problem of building a robot to solve this game? Robot design judges do not care how many points you're going to get. They don't care what missions you can do. What they care about is how did you decide what missions to do? How did you decide on this mechanism? How did you go from nothing to this mechanism? And how effectively does it work for you based on what you designed it to do? So this and the robot design are really 2 separate things. Again, judging, we don't care about the table. It does not matter to us. That's why there's no table in the room anymore and hasn't been for several years, is because this doesn't matter for that. And the fourth piece, which I think is probably the coolest part of First Lego League Challenge and why we have all of our experts here, is the innovation project. So in addition to all the robot stuff, and this is why we say it's not a robotics competition, is you're going to identify a problem with something in the challenge space, which is how we generate, store, distribute, and consume energy. It doesn't have to be all 4 areas, it can just be one of those areas. But you're going to find a problem with one of those, and then you're going to solve it. It's that simple. Right? Just pick a problem and solve it. Topher had the exact same response I do. Somebody asked a question about power lines that aren't affected by natural disasters, right? That's an innovation project. Your problem is there are power lines that are affected by natural disasters. So then you have to do research and find out why that happens, and then pick a solution for how can we fix it, and then you work on that solution. So in your judging session, it's 30 minutes, and you're going to go through all of this stuff, everything except for the robot game. How did you design your robot? What is your innovation project? And how do you work together as a team? And how do you exhibit the FIRST core values? That's all in your 30-minute judging session. And in that judging session, the judges are going to use rubrics. There's a core values rubric, publicly available. There's an innovation project rubric, publicly available. There's a robot design rubric, publicly available. So when you get to your judging session, you know what they're evaluating you against. And the number one thing I tell teams is, if you make it hard for the judges to fill this out, guess what? It's not going to be good for you, right? If it's easy for a judge to fill this out, you're going to score higher because they'll be like, oh, they did this, they did this, they did this. So use this when you're going through your season.
Something that was a kind of a recent change in the judging process is we're not ranking you against other teams. We're not scoring you against other teams. Like, you're getting scored against the rubric. You don't have to worry about what this other team's doing. Just worry about doing the best you can for the rubric.
And one of the things I wanted to point out, for the innovation project specifically, we had our panel of experts here today. Well, if I go here to identify, minimal research is one thing, but if I have partial research from more than one source, I counted at least 5 sources up here today that were talking about all kinds of different problems. So if you go with an innovation project that focus on one of these areas, you can talk about today, you had a panel of experts help you narrow down kind of what you were looking at. Or if you follow up with them in the future, they are one resource. So you are already close to a 2, if not at a 2, on this one metric on the rubric just by being here.
What about iterate?
Iterate. What about iterate?
Sharing with user professionals.
Right, so in addition to researching with your panel of experts, you can also share your solution, right? So you come up with a solution. If you work with somebody, go through your season, and you share your progress with them after you initiate that research, that also bumps you up on this area of the rubric too. So much of this is interconnected, and the rubrics tell you exactly what we're looking for. So just like with the robot game, we look at each area, we get your points, and then we rank you 1 to 10. So the top 10, or the 1 to 10 core values, 1 to 10 innovation project, 1 to 10 robot design. And we have 4 areas, that's all 4 areas. So let's say you're number 1 in all 4 areas. 1 plus 1 plus 1 plus 1, that's 4, right? Is 4. That's the lowest possible score. So if you get a 4, you're the best team overall by the judging and by the robot game. And so we go into a lot more depth on all of this in some of our local videos, which I've shared through the weekly email, so check on that. But I think the last thing I want to touch on is that judging this year is not just judging. It is also, where do we have the score sheet? I don't have it here, let me pull it up. So if you look on a score sheet, and they mentioned this in one of the videos, this is the score sheet I used in my videos. The referees are going to grade you on your gracious professionalism. And so this is part of your core values judging. The referees will be judging you at the table, whether you want them to or not.
And why is that? Why do they do that?
Yeah, why do y'all think that is? Why would the referees be grading this and not the judges? The judges might be with other people when you're doing your robot runs. Okay, anybody else? Yeah. You were stretching. So Taylor always puts it this way is, how do the judges know you didn't just come in and put on a show for them? Right? When you're at the table, that's when you're really demonstrating, do you get the core values and great professionalism or not? So that's why that has been moved out of the judging process and into the robot games, because that is where you are actually displaying gracious professionalism or not. The way that this will get scored is everybody goes up to the table with a 3. You are guaranteed a 3 as long as you don't mess it up. How could you mess it up? What's one way you could mess up your core values? Trash talking. That would absolutely get you bumped down. Yeah. Booing other teams. Terrible thing to do.
Not having good sportsmanship.
Not having good sportsmanship.
Just being.
I think not being kind.
Not being kind, yeah. So there's a lot of things you can do to bump you down to a 2, but you're probably not doing those things because you all know your core values. On the other side of that, if you demonstrate excessively great core values, we'll bump you up to a 4. So what are some great things you can do?
Cheering for the other team.
Cheering for the other teams.
Saying good job if they lose.
Saying good job if they lose. One more time. Complimenting teams, yeah.
Being encouraging.
Being encouraging.
Being supportive.
Being supportive. So there's so much you can do by just showing your core values. So again, you'll come to the table with a 3 every match, and you can get bumped up or bumped down depending on how well you're exhibiting the core values. Are there any questions on the judging process at this point? No, I will turn it over to Chris to talk about robot game. I'll pull up the...
Thanks, Drew. Good morning. My name is Chris. I've been involved with First LEGO League in Robotics for about 18 years now. I started in 4th grade with the LEGO League back when it was the Mars game, I still remember. And since about 2011, I've come back as a volunteer to help out. And this year, I will do my best as your head referee. I would like to encourage all the teams to read the rules, go over the updates, look at the videos as you go through the season, and make sure that you get your questions answered. I think every year we have some pitfalls where a team is either practicing on a wrong mission model that was built wrong or put on the map wrong, or has missed something in the rule book. And these are very preventable. So please, coaches, go over this with your students, with your technicians at the field. And students, please strategize and pay attention to the rule book, because this is absolutely something that will impact how well you do during the 2.5 minutes you have at the table. This year brings a lot of big changes. For the new teams, don't worry about it. Everything is right on track. For teams that have done this before, there is a new launch area and a new home, and we need to pay attention to how that affects the game. So please, new this year, there are now 2 home areas and 2 areas to launch from. 4 technicians, 2 on each side, are allowed at the field. The rules have been rewritten to account for all these changes, so please read through all materials carefully. All right. Thanks. Well, and yep. And also another big change is that your starting area is now inside of your launch zone. So please be mindful of that, and no cartons or tables up at our table with your material. Has to go inside here in your home. I'd also like to speak to gracious professionalism just a little bit. I think I heard someone say sportsmanship. That's a great way to think about gracious professionalism, since we were talking about defining it a little bit earlier. Hopefully you have a better idea of what it is after we discussed what is good or bad for gracious professionalism. Keep in mind that sportsmanship, which is another term essentially for it, matters even when you're not here, even when you're not in judging. It matters throughout the build season as you're building your robot. Like we just heard from our professionals, if you have disagreements, gracious professionalism is how you work past those disagreements and how you come to a decision on how to build your robot, how to complete one of the missions. And so while you're here in the pits, while you're building your robot throughout the season, please keep that in mind, because it's important, and if you practice it all season, it will be no problem when you're up at the table to employ gracious professionalism.
And I'll add that while all that's also true within your team, when we talk about being with other teams, one of the things to think about is, isn't it just so much more fun to compete when everybody is doing well? So that's one of the other tenets is we want to do well within our team, but if everybody is doing well, then that's more fun for us because it raises our floor.
Absolutely. Okay, so those are the big updates for this year. I think we have some time for questions. Again, questions throughout the build season. Updates, rules book, and I believe there's a way for them to contact us as well. And that should be online on those 2 websites as well.
And I think Chris is saying he's planning on attending the Thursday evening office
Yes,
hours.
I'll try to make it to the Thursday evening office hours. It should have been an invitation for today's event.
Yeah, the link is in the weekly email every week.
Cool. And there's Tuesday and Thursday. I'm available, I believe, for most of the Thursday ones. So I'll try to be there to answer any questions you have.
And if you can't make Thursday or have a question during the Tuesday session, just ask it then and we'll get it to Chris. Or if it's something I can answer, I'll answer it, or whoever's on the call. And if it's something, if you can't make either session, just send us the question and we'll get it back to you.
Cool.
Do you want to talk about the?
We've got a question.
I got a question. It can be very stressful and things go completely not how to expect. What are the best tips, the tips that you see fare the best when things go really wrong at the table? What do they do? What kind of strategies do they employ?
It's tough.
So I'll repeat the question so we can hear on the screen. Yeah. The question is, what are some tips for teams when things don't go great?
Yeah, it's difficult. And as a student in the competition before, I know it's stressful, especially when there's a lot of moving parts sometimes happening, and now you've got 4 technicians possibly at the table. I would like to point out that I believe, again, this year you can get 1 precision token taken away and not get a point penalty. And so if your technicians are aware of that, they can strategize around, hey, we can pick up the robot, reset, and there has been no penalty. And it helps, like, everything's still good. You're still good. And even if you have to pick it up again, the precision tokens are here so that you can factor that into your score. As far...
Three tries.
And you get 3
We're not
tries.
averaging your scores. We take your highest match score out of the 3 rounds that you get. So it's okay. Some people have a bad round, I have a bad match, but like you just...
The only time we look at your second highest score is if there's a tie for the highest score.
Right. And so I hope that helps a little bit. but practicing also helps. If technicians have gone through this, and by technicians I mean the 4 students, or between 2 and 4 students that are at the table, have practiced these rounds, hopefully they're in tune with the precision tokens and also what to do if the robot misses a mission. What is your plan? Are you going to move on to the next mission? Are you going to retry it? And how do you make those decisions based on how much time is left?
And I will point out on the talk about how many technicians are at the table, if you have at least 4 students on your team, you should have 4 technicians at the table. If you have fewer than 4 students, the challenge updates outline how your technicians should be at the table. And that is in clarification number 5.
Next year.
Do we have like a final say on electrical tape stuff?
I don't feel confident saying that today.
Okay.
But we will do our best to make sure that the mat is flat and game worthy for the competitions. I'll say that.
We should have that formally in this week's update.
Cool. Sweet. Awesome. Yes.
So with the addition of the new launch area and 2 more technicians, are the teams still limited to having 1 robot?
Yes.
It's a great question. And the question was, with the additional launch area, can you still only bring 1 robot to the table? And that is a yes. You can only bring 1 robot to the table. The idea is that the robot can launch from either of the launch positions. If, again, and there are some rules about that, like if you interrupt it while it's leaving, it has to go back to that launch area. If you interrupt it on the table, it can go back to either launch areas.
So I will point out about robots real quick. The 2 robots you are most likely to have, if you've been here for a while and have old technology, the EV3 comes in a box like this. We also support the other Mindstorms like the NXT, and even the RCX is still supported. But it's this brick, so if you have older technology, this is what you have. It is not being manufactured by Lego anymore. It is a deprecated technology. What many teams have switched to now is the Lego Spike Prime, which comes in a very similar box to the Spike Essential, but you'll notice it's got blue instead of green, and it looks pretty similar. It's just a little bit bigger, and it looks like this. One advantage of the Spike Prime over the EV3 is that it has a built-in gyroscope, so you free up sensor port that way. The rules currently say that you can use the Spike Essential. I think that's a misprint. You can't use the Spike Essential as your robot, but you can use parts from the Spike Essential, like motors or sensors that come with it are fine, but the Spike Essential is not for First Lego League Challenge.
Oh, sorry, I had a question here.
I have 2 questions. One, so there's only 1 robot allowed to compete on the field at one time. That must mean that if you have 2 teams in the same space, they probably each see their own field.
Yes.
During a match, yes.
Or during practice.
Yeah, if they're practicing, there will only be 1 team on the table in the competition.
Okay. So if I'm sponsoring 2 teams, I should probably plan to build 2 fields.
Not necessarily, only if you're planning on having them do stuff at the exact same time.
Okay.
Like if you kind of stagger who's on the table when, you only need 1 table because the table will be the same for everybody. But if you're having them like practice at the same time, then you would need 2 tables.
Okay. And 2, how do we get on the weekly flash?
As long as you are listed as a coach or admin on your dashboard, you get the emails. Those go to everybody in the state of Alabama, Challenge or Explore.
Okay.
And they're also in GitHub. And that link will be in the first email you get.
Okay.
Yes. I'm sorry, I didn't catch that.
Are there any rules against using projectiles?
Let's reference the rules. Make sure for this year.
I'm just gonna
projectiles project.
Yeah.
In previous years, yes.
All right, the word projectile does not show up in the document, but there might be some rules around that. I know that like First Tech Challenge, they usually have a specific rule, no launching projectiles. For First Lego League Challenge, I don't think there's a rule that says that, but there are probably limitations around what you can do with that. So my advice, and probably Chris's advice, is read the rules.
Into orbit, you can launch stuff. Yeah, true.
Now, when you say launch, are you talking about you, the person, or the robot? Okay. Because one of the things is that the person cannot send anything out on the field. So the example I like is the big dinosaur toy. It starts in the right home area, and you get points for it being in the left home area. Guess what you can't do? You can't just shove it across the table, and the technicians can't change sides. So once you're on the right, you can only be on the right, and you can't interact with the left. Same deal. So the robot has to get the toy dinosaur from the right to the left. So that's a good point on projectiles.
Yes.
Due to the new season changes, would you suggest EV3 or Spike Prime?
That's a great question. So the question was, due to the new season changes, would I recommend the EV3 or the Spike Prime? Well, I grew up on the RCX. I think it's the best. Once you charge the battery so that it doesn't go off track when it's going straight. But
I've got an RCX at home.
Yeah, ditto. But it's really up to your team. If your team has both available, I encourage you to practice a mission with each of them and see how is building the robot, how is programming the robot, and how well does it perform for your sample mission. That's my recommendation.
And I'll add on that, my two pieces of advice when choosing the technology are, number one, the best technology is the one you know how to use. So if you know how to use the EV3 and you don't know how to use the Spike, you either need to figure out how to use the Spike or use the EV3. The other thing I'll say, and this is more for the coaches, is that all of the materials that FIRST produces are geared toward the Spike. So if you anticipate needing resources from FIRST, the Spike is what's built into it. Now, what you'll see on the challenge and update pages, there is code for the guided mission. That code is Spike code. But there is an EV3 lab sequence, so that page is not currently working, so we'll have to do something about that. That's not my department. I work on the stuff you log into. But they do have some stuff for the EV3. It's just very skinned down. Now, if you have your Spike Prime software, which is either running as an app or they have a beta version which is running in a browser, definitely make sure you have something installed for a competition. But if I go to the Spike Prime and I go to the unit plans, they've got competition ready, which has some lessons for how to build a robot. They've got the guided mission from last year. I'm anticipating this will be updated soon, and it'll be the guided mission for this year, which there are instructions for how to accomplish this mission with the orange connector hand. So if nothing else, you will have some starting point for how to do that mission. So as to EV3 or Spike, like Chris, I recommend whichever one you know how to use, but if you need extra resources, they're all going to be for the Spike.
Cool. Other questions?
What is the maximum amount of points any team could score in a robot match?
I'd have to go tally that up.
I think it's like 410.
I know the answer. It is 410 points. 410 points is the maximum points you can earn.
Whoa.
And see if you can figure out how I got that score on your own time.
Oh, yes. That is a great question. So the question is, why do we need two launch areas if there's only one robot allowed at the table for your team? And the answer to that is, from FIRST, was that we want to get more students up at the table interacting with the robot. If you have 4 technicians up at the table, there is a better chance that students on a larger team can get to work with the robot. And also because practicing coordinating with your technicians across the table from one side to the other is a great way to build your teamwork. Right, and so we want to make sure that we're exercising our teamwork skills while we're up at the table, and having that extra bit of coordination plays into that.
There's no rule that says that if you launch from the left area, it has to go back to the left. So you could run a route where you launch from the left area, have it come back to the right, and then have a program where you launch from the right and go back to the left. So it gives you a lot more options for how to kind of plan your missions and your strategy. There are specific rules about when you interrupt the robot where it has to go, like Chris mentioned, but there's no rule saying if you launch from the left, you have to go back to the left. So that's another thing to consider.
Transition.
Okay.
So, yeah. Well, we're going to bathroom break then. So if you have more questions about all of this, definitely reach out to us, and we can get you the answers that you need.
And also we have those office hours. You should have seen an email. So Tuesdays 3 to 4 and Thursdays 6 to 7. So it's just like an open Zoom where you can, coach, whatever, jump on and just ask questions if you're just lost.
And it's both online and there's a dial-in if you just want to call.
Yes. So real quick, because I know some of y'all are getting squirmy and need bathroom breaks and stuff, I've noticed. So before we go out to do our kind of socializing and playing games, just really quick, I want to get a feel for which teams exactly are here and where you're from, because I know we have some new people in the room, and that this could, help you make some connections to people that might be able to help you out if you have questions in the season. So I know we have this big chunk here. How many teams? Two
FLL teams and FTC teams.
There's FLL and FTC from Fort Payne. They also have FRC in their school. Ladies,
and Allison Hope, back here to that, is a FLL coach. Brand new coach.
We've got press line back here. So what is your team's name?
Well, the Cool Coders.
Cool Coders, okay, and y'all are from Birmingham. Y'all from, is it Mountain Brook?
Mountain Brook, yeah.
So they're from the Mountain Brook area. So you okay, so this back row, are y'all 4 Payne here? Sorry, there's like some of them here. Okay, who are you? Heritage? No, Hatton. Layton. Hatton. Y'all are from Layton. Okay, so that's Colbert. Yes, Colbert County. Okay. Orange Shoal, or that way. We don't have a lot going on down there. So is this all Hatton up here for your Hatton? Okay. Okay, now we have our new rookie Orange Beach team who came all the way up here today.
Okay, that new school at Gulf Shores, they need some robots.
I know that's
We need to get them some robots.
So I'll mention, Will, you're over here, so you're going to be with Mill Creek, restarting their team in Madison City. Alright, I see Blue Bananas back here. Blue Bananas, they're from the Hampton Cove area. Y'all are a community-based team, right? And so they've had an older sibling team kind of grow out of FLL. This is the younger sibling team, but y'all been competing. Blue Bananas been around a couple years too, right? So, okay.
I will say you've got several former state champions and robot game performance winners in this room,
yes,
so
you do.
You've got resources.
I know we have an Explorer student over here. Where are y'all from?
Madison City.
Madison City, okay. What about y'all?
Pure Girls?
Pure Girls.
Yeah.
So y'all are from Owens Crossroads, Hampton Cove. Okay, y'all were rookie last year, right? Okay, so they're kind of a community group. Are y'all considered a Girl Scout team, or are y'all just community? Okay, awesome. Okay, and we have Holly Witt here from Walnut Grove School in Madison County. So she's coached for a long time. Who else? Out of Madison, so new community teams. We've got another rookie team here. Who else do we have? Yes.
So we're returning from last year for our first season, Brookbusters. We're in that also.
Brookbusters, yes. Okay. I know one of my FRC students is here and helping out today. Who else? Okay. And like I mentioned earlier, we also, where's Jamie? Okay. Jamie McClung, so Reagan's husband. Not the other way around. He's our first senior mentor, so we do have a couple more we're onboarding right now, but he is a great resource. His job is essentially to be kind of like a mentor for any of the programs across the state. So he's an excellent resource coach. They've gone to the World Festival. He has FTC, FRC, FLL. Very, very, very helpful contact. He is willing to travel around as much as he can and go help you. He just told me, he's like, I'd love to go to Orange Beach.
Had Van all I need is a
okay, awesome. So we're going to transition now then. So if you haven't found the bathrooms, if you keep going toward the lobby, you'll see women on this side and then further down. And we have we have all of these games set up in the lobby, so we just wanted to make sure we included some time that y'all could sort of meet and greet coaches, talk to other coaches, kids meet each other. Maybe y'all can start thinking through maybe some project ideas or how you would tackle some robot missions, things like that. So we just wanted to include some time that y'all could kind of hang out for a little while. So I'm going to go ahead and let you go.
Well, and I'll add that Chris and I are going to hang around here for a little bit. I'll be here for the rest of the time. If you have questions about the game or judging or the technology, I'll be here. If any of our panel experts want to stick around, please do so as well.
All right.
I'm here too.
Chris Barrow. I'm Chris Cantrell. Yeah, I have your email address at Period. Oh, awesome. They just use Chris and they give it to me, say I get our email. Oh, that was better than the last email.
I was really cool to see the manager.
They got in now. Pretty sure that's our whole team.